All right, hi everybody, welcome back once again. Ryan here. Been out here working on a Cascadia day cab today. Wanted to kind of expand on our continuation, or we've been talking about used truck buying, things you should look out for. We've done several different videos out there on this topic in general. So we want to kind of expand today on different engines that are out there, in my opinion, what I see on some of them, my opinions and experiences as far as breakdowns, parts, and just kind of general stuff along those lines, I guess would be the main thing. So if you're new to the channel and you haven't watched us before, check out some of our other videos, going over whole trucks. With my business, we do pre-purchase inspections as well, so we got a couple of videos out there on some of these inspections we've done. And we're always, if I have time, if time allows and all that, I try to do videos sometimes when we're doing pre-purchases. So always, and point out different, key issues and stuff like that, or pointers. So check that stuff out if you guys are new and you're interested. But anyways, we're going to jump right into these engines here, and I'm just going to kind of break it down and go one by one and give you guys what I see on them, my opinions, and what I would do basically. Okay guys, so we're going to start off with Detroit engines out there. You've got your DD series and also like your Series 60 series or Series 60s. So with the DDs, you got a DD13, DD15, DD16, which you don't see a whole lot of the 16s, but it's the DD platform, so they're basically the same engine for the most part, just different displacements, different sizes, different horsepower ranges, and all that type of stuff. So my experience with Detroits and the DD series, they're a pretty good engine, pretty reliable. I mean, they have their little quirks and all that stuff. I mean, to where there's certain things that go wrong with them, just like there is with anything. With Detroit, parts have been kind of hit or miss. So I'm kind of not very happy and not very mad, kind of somewhat, neither agree or disagree as far as their parts availability, because it seems like when you need something that's not available, then you call back. When you don't need it, like, hey, I'd like to get one of these just to put on my shelf here, then there's like 6 of them available. So they have had some supply issues, and they are owned by Daimler. Daimler, they're a German company, as you all might know, owns Detroit, Freightliner, Western Star. So a lot of stuff gets sourced from Europe, and with supply chain issues we've had ongoing here for the last going on 2 years now, stuff ain't always coming in and getting off the ships and on and on and on. So there have been, like I said, some supply chain issues, what I've seen with Detroit engines and Freightliner in general, kind of middle of the road things, or middle of the road compared to other brands out there. DD15 is a good engine, good horsepower. The main detractor right now, I would say, with buying a Detroit and a Freightliner are the one boxes, and we've talked a lot about one box issues on the channel. You can check out those videos if you're interested. So right now, if you're going to Freightliner and you need a one box replaced, because it's a self-contained unit again, if you want to kind of see the insides, the guts of it, we've got videos out there on that, what they look like inside. So if you got a problem with your SCR or your DOCs, I mean, in a lot of cases, I deal with some companies that do rebuild them. I deal with some aftermarket companies that actually have some, aftermarket one boxes on the shelf for like, 6-7 grand roughly. But if you're going to a Freightliner dealer, they're going to tell you like 16 weeks back order, and they won't work on them. They won't try to clean. They won't clean the DOCs. They'll throw new DPS in. They won't work on the SCRs. So they're going to pretty much try to sell you a new one. And I've heard quotes out there upwards of $15,000 to deal with that, to put a new one box in. And besides the point, you're 4 months out basically. Where if the truck's down, you're not making any money for 4 months. So I think that's kind of the Achilles heel of the Detroit, the DD platform, is the one box issues right now. So that would kind of deter me from possibly buying one at this point until that situation gets straightened out. Now the Series 60s, they're a pretty proven engine, pre-emissions engine. They're a bulletproof engine. They got a few little things here and there, but they're cheap to rebuild. Parts are pretty well available for the most part from what I've found. And if you're going for a pre-emissions truck, that could be a good choice for you. So that's pretty much in a nutshell, without spending an hour on this topic, my ideas and thoughts as far as Detroit goes. And with that, we'll kind of move on to the next one here. Okay, so the next brand I want to talk about is Caterpillar. Caterpillar does not build an on-highway engine currently. They haven't since 2008, roughly. So most of and the reason they did that, I mean, there's a lot of different reasons out there. I mean, people throw around, but I mean, mainly off-road emissions and highway emissions are pretty much the same now. I mean, off-road stuff's using DEF and all that. So, you know, when I worked at CAT, it was a CAT tech. I mean, what the story I was told is they didn't want to do. They had a lot of catching up to do on the emissions to get to be certifiable, and they weren't to that point yet. So I don't really know why they haven't went back on the highway side yet, because like I said, the emissions are basically the same. CAT's a pretty solid engine. The big detractor from CAT's is the price of parts. I mean, they are, between them and Mack, they're kind of the top of the line, highest parts out there. I mean, everything's really expensive. But the one thing that when I worked at CAT, and the reason what I was always told that they demand that premium was because they was always like, oh, we can have any part within 24 hours for you, which right now isn't the case. I mean, CAT's kind of went down like maybe below that neither agree or disagree level with me as far as parts availability. Because about every time I call for something with them, it's on back order, or they have to get it from, like, I've heard they're shipping some parts like out of Russia or something crazy, like crankshaft dampeners, vibration dampeners. I've actually, like I said, I've actually heard that there's like sourcing them from Russia now because they don't have them. So I mean, you'd think with CAT, you know, and their you know, basically commitment to have you parts that quick, that they would be able to figure these problems out. So like I said, really expensive parts, and they are having some kind of major issues. I've called about, like I said, the balancers were an issue, oil coolers on the C15s. On the highway application C15s, the oil coolers are a problem, but on the off-highway side, they weren't a problem, but they're not the same thing, so they don't interchange. They're a little bit different. So that's kind of a deterrent for me to go into a CAT. I mean, a lot of guys like them. They are a reliable engine. But they're kind of, if you're looking at trucks, I mean, you're going all the way back to 2008. So I mean, in most of those trucks, you know, they're going to be even a 2008 was probably built in 07. So you're looking at something that's 13, 15 years old now. So getting kind of up in age. I mean, in the truck itself, you don't know, chassis harnesses, stuff like that. So you're just getting into a lot older equipment. But I'm not saying not to buy one. If you are looking at older CATs, and in some places I've done, you know, where they said they've had rebuilds and stuff like that. I've looked at them and looked at the documentation, and it's all, you know, it ain't what it says it is. So if you're looking at one of those older CATs, I'd definitely get an oil sample pulled, because I found a couple of them, they said they've been rebuilt, and, you know, according to an oil sample, that's not quite the case. So, so that's pretty much my 2 cents on that. You know, like I said, they're not a bad engine. Typically in the past, parts availability has been very good, but recently I kind of give it a thumbs down at this point. So, well, so that's pretty much it on CAT, in my opinion. Let's move on to the next one. All right, guys, so moving on to my personal favorite. Well, before I do that, I just want to throw out there, guys, if you're new to the channel, if you just found us, or if you found us a long time ago and you're not subscribed, please get subscribed, so you can always, you know, helps us grow the channel, get new supporters, and you know, get a little bit bigger and get our content out there. So if you subscribe, we really appreciate that, and that's the nicest thing you can do, or the best thing to support us, is that subscribe and that thumbs up. So, anyways, moving on to Cummins, which I got to say I'm kind of biased. Cummins is my personal favorite for several reasons. I mean, a lot of there's some issues and stuff out there. You know, like I said, every engine out there is going to have something that has been an issue, whether they've resolved it or not. It is what it is. So I like Cummins because of the parts availability and the serviceability and the free information that is out there that anybody can get, which we've done a video on the on Cummins Quick Serve. So you can actually, anybody out here, if you got an email address, you can go to, and we'll put a link to this video, to that video of Cummins Quick Serve. If you got an email address, you can go onto their website, you can sign up, you can get complete manuals. I mean, I paid like $100 a piece for the paper manuals, but you can get on their website, you can get all that stuff for free. That allows you like up to 5 serial numbers you can put in. So if you got multiple engines or whatever platforms, you can get all that stuff for free. You got parts data where you can look up your own parts. I mean, it's a plethora of information out there that's free, and anybody can access it, where you don't see that with Detroit. Caterpillar is their manuals are extremely expensive. I mean, you get into some manual sets, I mean, you might end up into $2,000-$3,000 for physical manuals. And then they want you to have like, I can't, Sys Web's out there. I know this is Cat, but I believe you have to have a subscription for it and all that. But like I said, the Cummins stuff is free. About everybody out there can hook up to a Cummins. Cummins Insight is a relatively cheap program. And even a lot like Jaw Test and some of the other programs like I have out there in OTR and all that stuff, they're very, very easy to get into and diagnose electronically and fix stuff electronically. So the serviceability, I mean, like I said, if you got a Freightliner with a Cummins in it, you can take to a Kenworth dealer, you can take to a Volvo dealer. I mean, pretty much anywhere everybody sells Cummins. So, and the third thing with that is parts. Again, you can pretty much, I have Kenworths and Peterbilts here every once in a while that have Cummins in them, and I have an account at a Freightliner dealer, and I can get there because they sell Cummins, so I can get parts there. So I mean, and I get a better discount from them as well than I would, at Kenworth. So so there's a lot of options out there. As far as if you're out on the road, there's a lot more Cummins dealers if you break down or need parts, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one of the reasons I like Cummins. I mean, they do have some of their flaws. Especially you getting into the older ISX15s with the CM2250 fuel system, there was some plunger issues with the porcelain plungers and stuff like that. I think now by this time most of those pumps have been upgraded. There was some carbon packing issues as well with some of the earlier ISX15s. And again, I think a lot of these problems have most of them have resolved themselves for the most part. And emissions things, I mean, you're going to have, regardless of what you have, you're always going to have emissions problems, DPFs, SCRs, DEF systems, and et cetera. But I found that Cummins is really easy to get parts for. There's a lot of aftermarket places I can get parts for them. And so I just think they're a decent engine. I've had good luck with them myself. And like I said, there's going to be emissions issues with everything out there. And actually, for a lot of the other emissions systems out there, even on Freightliners, the Detroits, a lot of those components, the DEF filter, stuff like that stuff's all made by Cummins. So actually they're the ones that are making it for other people. So even if you have Detroit, there are Cummins parts on that Detroit as far as the emission systems go. So I mean, they might have a different package. I mean, like the DEF filters, like I was saying a second ago, I mean, you'll go buy one at Freightliner and it'll be in a Detroit box, but then when you take it out, it's actually got Cummins emissions system solutions or whatever on it. So so that would be my choice if I was in the market, like I said, just for that availability. The other thing I was going at a second ago there was through all these shortages and everything out here, I work on a lot of Cummins, and I haven't got into any back order issues really. There's been a couple things I've had to wait a couple days to get, but there's nothing like we don't have this and we can't get it. So I haven't experienced that directly, and like I said, I work on a lot of Cummins, pretty much ins and outs about everything on them, and I have not to this point. Like I said, other people out there might have different stories and different experiences, but to me personally, I haven't had any supply chain issues as far as Cummins has went. So in my opinion, I think that's probably your best choice at this juncture in time in the world we live in right now. So with that, we'll move on to the next one. Okay guys, so for the next one, I'm going to kind of lump Volvo and Mack into one pie here, I guess you could say, whatever. So I don't have a lot of experiences. I do have a lot of experience with older Macks. I worked for a ready mix company up here. We had a lot of Mack ready mix trucks and dump trucks, looking like the older MP7s and stuff like that, and the older engines even before that. Again, they're decent engines, but again, they demand a premium as far as parts. I thought the Mack parts were always pretty high compared to Detroit or Cummins. But I can't really. I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys something I don't know. I don't have a lot of experience with them. Volvos are kind of the same way. The thing with Volvos is I think they're expensive as well. They are. I don't know, they're just odd. They're very, very odd compared to with everything else. Everything's kind of weird. Everything's really tight. The emission systems on the emissions trucks, the DPF SCR is over, on the passenger side of the truck. I mean, it's a vertical unit. They're pretty easy to work on. One of the things I don't like about the Volvo is they use a lot of plastic or neoprene coolant lines and stuff like that. And they tend to get brittle and they break off, and you have all these problems. But that's one thing I've noticed on Volvos is they use a lot of plastic lines, and I'm not a fan of that. So that's kind of a detractor. A couple weeks ago, I did a job for a gentleman, put some belt tensioners on and belts and all that, and it was a total nightmare. My hands are all cut up. I mean, there's no room to get in there between the fan. I actually just took the tensioners, all the belts, tensioners, and idlers off this Cummins ISX15 here, and it literally took me like 10 minutes, where I think doing that belt tensioner job, both belts and tensioners on that D13, it took me, it was like half a day. I mean, it was a total nightmare. So, I mean, everything's, I don't know, they're just very odd. I don't work on a lot of them. I don't see a lot of them coming to me, but I'm not a big fan, so I'll just leave it at that. I've heard their software is, I have Jaw Test, which comes from Spain, so it's a European, built software that's been converted to English and brought over here to the United States. They use a lot more Volvos in Europe, so my software does pretty well with on the few Volvos that I have worked on. Haven't had any major issues as far as not being able to clear stuff, not being able to take stuff out of D-rate, doing tests and stuff like that. But I've heard a lot of shops out there, they don't have anything to hook up. Smaller shops don't hook up to Volvos. So that's could be a consideration as well when you're looking at, okay, I'm broke down, where can I get this truck worked on? So there's not, a lot of stuff has to go to the dealer because a lot of smaller shops won't buy the Volvo software. So I'm going to kind of leave that kind of short and sweet, like I said, because I don't have a whole bunch of information because I don't work on them. I know from my understanding, I may be wrong, the MP8 and the D13, I've heard they're very similar. So they've kind of integrated from what I've heard. I may be completely wrong, but that's kind of what I've talked to from a few people. So yeah, so I'm kind of neither agree nor disagree with the whole Volvo Mack thing. So like I said, it's not really my cup of tea. So we'll leave it at that and continue on here. Okay guys, so we're going to move on to Pacaar here, which in over-the-road trucks is primarily going to be your MX-13. It's actually a DAF engine from Europe that they've kind of retrofitted and all that and brought over to the American market. I think they're built in Mississippi somewhere. So I actually owned an MX-13 and I had a 2017 T680 when I first got into owner-operator trucking. I think I got the truck when it had like 40,000 miles on it, ran it up to like over 300,000. Never really had any major issues with it. At that point, I was using the Bosch HDS 200 for all my troubleshooting needs and all that, which I think we've got some videos out there on that as well, which I think they've updated that to the HDS 250 at this point. But it was pretty much read only. Like if I had a code or something pop up, I could get in there and read it. But the main detractor from Pacaar is their software. It is very, very, they don't want you working on anything. I mean, unless you have the Pacaar Davy software, which is pretty expensive. I believe you're going to be in like $3,000 to get into it. Then I think their subscription is like $1,800 or $1,900 a year annually to actually be able to go in and do everything. Because even with Jaw Test, going into it, and I have a Snap-on Ultralink Pro software, computer, all that. With both of my computers, which you're looking like, between the two of those computers I have and software setups, you're looking at like $25,000 combined of software and technology and hardware. And a lot of times I'll go into a Paccar engine and you'll go to do an injector cutout test and it'll just come up and say, command rejected by the ECM. It won't let you do anything. Even with that amount of computing power and hardware, it won't let you do anything. So it's like if you're going to have a Pacaar, now OTR's out there, and their software they've found out a way to clear D rates to 5 mile an hour D rates and things like that, and some of the DPF resets some of those issues. So with OTR, so if you do have a Pacaar or if you're looking to get one, I'd highly recommend OTR because if you're out on the road, unless you can get to a Kenworth or Peterbilt dealer, you're kind of you're screwed because a lot of smaller shops they don't have Davy software, and a lot of them, like I said, myself, I mean, I'm eventually going to get it, just depending on our growth and the amount of customers coming in, because I'm really limited as far as what I can do and what I can help you out with. Now, like I said, with OTR, we've been able to solve a lot of those D-rate issues and the DPF resets and stuff like that. And we work with OTR, so if we always put a link in there. You can check them out if you do have a Pacaar as well. Now, a lot of basically the emission system on that Pacaar, again, is Cummins for the most part. I mean, when you go buy DPF sensors and stuff, it's going to be, they say Cummins on them. So, I mean, it's all pretty much a Cummins emission system, almost the same as what's on your ISX engines, X15s and whatnot. So, but like I said, mechanically, it's a clean engine. They're easy to work. I mean, everything's easy to get to. And they're not terrible to work on like a Volvo or like the next one I'm going to talk about here in a minute. So like I said, the software thing is an issue, so that would kind of maybe keep me from buying one, but I don't think it's a terrible engine in a nutshell. So with that, we'll continue on here. All right, guys, so last, but I will say probably least, my least favorite would be International. They really, I don't know what happened over there. They used to make a very good product. I mean, the DT466s, the original 7.3 Power Stroke engine in the Fords were built by International Navistar. But when they went to the Max Force 13, yeah, they really, yeah, we'll just leave it at that. It might as well be a boat anchor. It's junk. They've had emissions problems, turbo problems. You know, they're just a total nightmare. And then I'm not a fan of the ProStars and all them. They got really cheap. Any way they could find, you know, if we could shorten the wire harness somewhere 2 inches, they did it to save money. Which and even on the engines, on those Max Force engines, what you would see was they got so tight with some of the wiring is that the vibrations and stuff from going down the road would actually, the wires would pull out of the sensors and stuff and cause all these sensor issues. But they got, like I said, if you see Max Force 13 or I think they went to the N13 and then the A26, they are all the same thing. That is, just keep changing the name and did maybe fixed a couple little things here and there, but I would definitely run. Now, ProStar with a Cummins or something, it's marginally better, but the problem with that is, and I know I'm trying to stick to engines here, but I want to throw this in because as far as working on an engine, even if you have an ISX15 in a ProStar, you have to like tear the whole cab apart. You got to pull the seats out, you got to pull the dash out. I mean, it's just a total nightmare because they got that engine shoved halfway up underneath the cab to where you can't work on it. I mean, pulling the transmission out, you got to tear it all apart. I had a customer recently that had some work done on a transmission in one of these, and he sent me the invoice, and I'm like, why is there like 32 hours of labor on this? I mean, and some of it was nonsense over the top, in my opinion. But I mean, it's going to take longer. I mean, normally a transmission job, I usually quote those like around 10 or 12 hours to pull it out, put a clutch in, put it back in, main seal, all that type of stuff. So I seen that 32 and a half hours, and I was like, whoa, you know. But then, you know, the guy was just fine. We had to take the seats out and all this other stuff, which is true, but I still think, you know, that amount of hours was excessive. Maybe 20 would have been reasonable. But whenever you're going to get into the back of the engine on that truck, I mean, you basically got to tear the whole cab apart. Then even with the emissions problems, if you delete them, which as you guys know, I'm not a big fan of. I don't promote it. We don't offer any delete services or anything like that. Like I said, I recommend the way things are going politically and everything else in this country, environmentally. That stuff, it's going to get worse. I've even heard of places like, especially international, where guys are taking these deleted Max Forces in, and I've heard of one place like they would impound the truck and turn you into the EPA and basically extort you into putting that truck back the way it's supposed to be for $15,000 or $20,000 before they'll release your truck. So I'm not a big fan of that, but even with deleting those engines, I've heard horror stories like, because those got 2 turbos on them, where they'll burn up, if the tune isn't right, you end up burning up one turbo, then you replace it, then you burn up the other turbo, and they're just a total nightmare. So in short, don't buy one, and that's it. So we'll leave it at that. So that pretty much covers everything. I don't think I left anybody out there. Yeah, I think we covered everything there. So that pretty much covers engines. Okay, guys, so I think that pretty well covered everything. Like I said, I'm racking my brain here. I don't think I left any out. So that's kind of my summary of engines out there. This is not, you know, everything about everything, line for line, model for model, but just kind of from my experience working on these brands, kind kind of what I've seen and my take on them, and from my experience and all that, and kind of where I would go if I was looking out there in this crazy market that we're living in today. So that's pretty much it, guys. I hope that helps you out. If you got any questions or comments, please let us know. Either contact us via email, call us, on our website, or please feel free, leave a comment in the YouTube comments and all that down there. So, like I said, we appreciate you watching. Thanks for all the support. Again, subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell for the updates and give us that thumbs up if you would. That's what helps us. That's the nicest thing you can do, and the best, thanks or whatever to help us get the word out there and get the videos out to other people on YouTube. So, again, guys, thanks for watching. Appreciate everything. We'll see you next time.